Hey everyone, Flo from OFTWOLANDS here, and today we're going to talk about the new Sirui Ironstar Anamorphic lenses. I've been filming with these lenses for the past month or so, and in this video I will talk about my experience with them, what I like and don't like about these lenses, and finally whether or not I would recommend them. I will also discuss briefly how they compare to other anamorphic lenses I've used, and why I personally decided to get my hands on these. As always, before I start, be sure to subscribe to see more videos like this one, and let's get into it. If you've been following me for a little while now, you know that I've been using Sirui products for a few years now. I have the Jupiter Micro Cine Primes, which I love, and I've used on pretty much all of my cameras from the 6K Pro to the latest Ursa 12K LF. They quickly became some of my favorite lenses. I love their look, and I also really enjoy the shooting experience. Recently, I've also been using the Vision Pro series. Great lenses with interchangeable mounts at a very competitive price. And also I've been using the Video tripod and head. So when they asked me a few months ago if I was interested in testing their new full-frame anamorphic lenses, I said yes. There are a few reasons that made me want to get these lenses. The main one is that these are anamorphic. I rarely shoot anamorphic, so I'm always interested in trying more lenses. Before these, I owned the Greyjoy or Blazer 1.8, and I've shot recently with the Laowa Proteus zooms as well. But since I love the look of my other Sirui lenses, I really wanted to give these ones a go. I also like that I have a set of 3, which allows me to use the full set from the start, instead of waiting for single lenses to be released. I also want to mention that personally, I like anamorphic lenses for their overall look and aspect ratio, rather than extreme flares, if that makes sense. Now, full disclaimer, Sirui did send me these lenses for me to keep, but they don't get to modify the content of this video, and these are my own opinions. And as with all my reviews, I want to give as much information while still being genuine and show you what I like but also what I don't like after using these lenses in an organic way. Over the past month or so, I've been using these lenses to shoot anything from documentary style content to landscape, as well as personal content. I even took them hiking in the French Alps and in New York City, so I really use them in varied scenarios. I also film in full daylight, in overcast lighting, indoors, but also at nighttime. I really tried to use them as much as I could and find subjects or scenes that would replicate the work that I usually do. As always, when I do reviews, I prefer to use lenses to film actual content or projects and not just test footage. In terms of cameras, I film of course with the new Blackmagic Ursa 12K LF, but I also use the PYXIS 6K as well as the Cinema Camera 6K. And also use these lenses rigged up and with minimal kits, both on sticks and handheld. And as always, you can find all the gear in the description below. Now let's get into the lenses. The Ironstar lineup is made of 3 lenses for now, the 35mm, the 45mm and the 60mm. These are 1.5 anamorphic lenses and they are all T1.9. They are manual lenses and are made for full-frame sensors. What makes them special is that they come with 2 different mounts included, PL and EF. There is also a blue flare and neutral flare option. In terms of weight, they're roughly 1 kg depending on the mount and focal length, which makes them quite light being full-frame anamorphic lenses. And for size, here are them compared to the Jupiter and the Greyjoy 1.8. They have a 92mm filter thread and a 95mm outer diameter, and they all have the same size and gearing between them, which makes it easier to swap band boxes or to swap lenses in general. You can also adjust the back focus, which is always handy. And finally, their price is around $11.99 per lens or $35.99 for the set, but you can also get them for $9.99 per lens or $29.99 with the early bird pricing using the link below. And of course, you can find more information on these lenses with a link in the description. First of all, the image. Having used these lenses in different environments, I can definitely say that I was happy with all of my shots, and I really like the image that comes from the Ironstar. I think when it comes to anamorphic lenses, it is more about the look and feel of the image. There is something quite pleasing about the bokeh, the center sharpness, and it definitely feels like you are using an anamorphic lens without being too crazy. This means they can be used on several projects, and it makes them quite versatile. 1.5 times on full frame is a good amount, especially filming open gate on a full frame blackmagic sensors, for example. And being anamorphic lenses, obviously, the tighter you get, the more look you get. So the 60mm will have a more anamorphic look, if that makes sense, than the 35mm. I also appreciate that these lenses don't flare like crazy or in an unnecessary way. Focus breathing seems to be minimal as well. Next is the shooting experience. I had a great time filming with these lenses regardless of the setup that I was using. They feel great in the hand, and both the aperture ring and focus ring are smooth and nice to use. Despite being anamorphic lenses, they were still light enough to use handheld, so I took the 35mm to New York City for a few days and used it with a cinema camera 6K as I would with any other travel lens. I also took the 45mm on a few hikes, and again, it was super easy and still compact enough to use run and gun. But of course, you can also rig them up if you wanted to, like I did, putting a follow focus and a matte box for example. I've said this before, but I really love lenses that allow me to use them for personal content as well as proper documentary or commercial work. Flexibility is very important for me, and these lenses can do that easily. Then we have the aperture. These are fast lenses, especially for anamorphic ones. Having lenses that can shoot under T2 is always handy. First of all because you can shoot in very low light, but also because you can isolate part of the image and focus the viewer's eyes where you want, which helps with anamorphic lenses when you want that center sharpness or focus. As a comparison, my great joy are T2.9. Next is the de-squeeze factor. These lenses are 1.5 times. As I just mentioned before, I found this amount to be quite handy. It is enough to get the anamorphic look, but also not too crazy that you have to crop the edges depending on the sensors that you are using. Then we have the swappable mounts. This is extremely handy, and I love that you can choose the mount that suits you. It takes 2 minutes to swap the mount, and it is a nice touch. For me, for example, this means that I can use them on my Ursa 12K, since I have both native PL and EF mounts, but I can also use it with a PYXIS and a cinema camera 6K, since I have EF to AL adapters. Having the mounts included should be a feature that all lens sets should come with. Full frame. I've said this many times on the channel before, but having full frame lenses means you can either use them on full frame cameras or Super 35 cameras for example, so they are more versatile and a better investment in my opinion. These seem to cover a pretty wide image circle as they did not vignette shooting open gate on the Ursa 12K LF. Another thing that I want to talk about is consistency. With affordable lenses, you can sometimes get a slightly different color or look between lenses, but with this set I didn't notice anything different. Next we have the build quality. The bodies feel quite well made for their price and they feel very well balanced too. I also personally really like their look, as I think they stand out from other lenses but in a good way. And not that it matters at all, but I find the color and the writing quite pleasing. The caps are also very well made, and I like the specs on the lids as I think it is a nice touch and quite handy. I think these lenses offer great value. I don't think there are many modern anamorphic lenses made for full frame sensors that are T1.9 across the set, with a 1.5 times de-squeeze, and that also include an EF and PL mount, not to mention the great image quality, versatility, and consistency across the whole set. And finally, the case. As you know, I'm a big fan of nicely made cases. They are useful to store, carry, and protect your lenses, and the one for this set is great as I really appreciate the inside and the way the lenses are laid out and labeled. I also like the fact that the lenses stand upright and that the extra mounts and tools are nicely included. When I received the 35mm, it came in a very nice single pouch with an extra mini one for the mount, so I'm assuming this is the one that you would get if you get a single lens. It is also of high quality. So now let's talk about the things that I don't like about these lenses. Like I just mentioned, I really like these lenses, but this is a review and I want to be transparent, so there are a few things I would like to point out. The first thing is the pincushion distortion. Distortion is of course expected when it comes to anamorphic lenses, especially at that price, but I much prefer barrel distortion than pincushion. That being said, it isn't distracting or a major issue, but it is noticeable. Next is a filter thread. When I use cine lenses, I always tend to use a matte box, and I love that these are 95mm front diameter, which means that I can use natively my Nisi C5 matte box straight away. But when I want to use the lenses in a more run and gun setup, like in New York, or when hiking, or for personal content, I want to use a VND, but 92mm makes it hard. 95, 82, and even 86 are common sizes, but 92 not so much. Thankfully I have this adapter that allows you to put a 95mm filter on any lens between 82 and 95, which is very handy, but it is also quite bulky and it needs just an extra accessory. That being said, they do offer at the moment free VND and CPL filters if you get the 3 lens set, which is a nice touch. Feel free to check out the link in the description. In terms of the image, like I said, there is a bit of vignetting as well with the 35mm using an adapter on a cinema camera 6K. This is not of course a lens issue, as it doesn't happen on the URSA 12K LF for example when using the PL mount, but I wanted to mention it in case you are using an EF adapter on your PYXIS or cinema camera 6K like myself. Then we have the close focus distance. It isn't amazing. 0.65 meter on a 35mm and 0.78 on a 60mm for example. You get used to it, but I just wanted to mention it. Also 1.5 times is enough for me, and the fact that they don't flare too much suits my style, but for some people that really want a strong anamorphic look, they might get slightly disappointed as these ones are more on a subtle side. For example, in New York City, I had to really point at a strong source of light to get noticeable flares. When they do happen to flare though, I think it is quite pleasing and quite natural. I also wanted to point out that the case is a little shallow when you have the EF mounts on. The PL sits slightly lower, which is a better fit. Of course, if you have them all in EF like myself, it will still fit, but I just wanted to mention as it feels a little tight. The lenses can also be tricky to get out as I often grab the lid. And lastly, I really want to see longer focal length, such as 85 or even above 100mm, which would make them properly useful for entire projects. It looks like they have a 75mm, 100mm and even a 135 in the works, so this would be amazing. Now I just wanted to quickly mention my experience with these when compared to the anamorphic set that I own, which is a Greyjoy or Blazer 1.8, and the lenses that I've used most recently, which are the Proteus Zoom. I really enjoy the Sirui Ironstar because firstly they are consistent. My Greyjoys for example are 1.8 times, but depending on the focus distance they can also vary between 1.7 and 1.6. The Sirui happen to also be faster, and while I think the Blazer might have more character, which I love, I would still pick the Sirui since they are more reliable in terms of the disc-squeeze, and they also don't stick out as much at the back, which is better for adapters. When compared to the latest anamorphic lenses that I've used, which are the Laowa Proteus Zoom, they are of course heavier and more versatile being zoom, but they also happen to be 2 times anamorphic lenses, which can be a plus depending on the sensor or project. That being said, they are slower, heavier, and of course much more expensive. I think overall the Sirui strike a very good balance of price, image quality, and versatility. Yes, I would definitely recommend the Sirui Ironstar. Their look is beautiful with that anamorphic character while still staying neutral enough to use on a wide variety of projects. The shooting experience is great, and the fact that they come both with PL and EF mounts will make them a great choice for different projects, users, and cameras. I also think their price is well aligned with the competition and quite affordable for the features that you get, so I would highly suggest you look into them if you are looking at getting your first anamorphic set. Don't forget to check out the link in the description to get early bird pricing. That's it for me for today guys, hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Also feel free to check out my 2 ebooks, Freelance Documentary Filmmaking and Travel Cinematography, where you can find a streamlined but comprehensive overview from pre-production all the way to marketing, built on years of my own experience shooting short documentaries and travel videos around the world. And if you are interested, I'm also doing filmmaking mentoring sessions when you can ask me anything about a wide variety of topics.